I'm with Mark Kermode, who's over for the IoM Film Festival. While I've got you, Mark, I thought it'd be a chance to talk about the state of the Isle of Man film industry, because, I mean, you followed it, I'm sure, from afar, but...
from afar, yes.
It seems like everywhere has now got their own film funds, from Yorkshire, every place you hear about is after this money, this fantastic money that people are going to make films in their area, they're going to become as big as The Sound of Music or something, and make people come and see where it's all being taking place. I think you gather where we're going here. Yeah. I mean, the IoM's film has been around for a long time now.
Yes, a very long time now,
It's not really had that breakout movie. Really, I know Belle last year you were raving about.
Well, it's very interesting. Last year you and I were talking about Belle because Amra Santi was over here and she was doing Q&A about it. And I think Belle was a real watershed. I know, obviously, if you look back over the history of films made here, people think of Waking Ned, obviously, which was a huge international success. Also of Stormbreaker, which didn't turn out to be the big blockbuster that perhaps everybody kind of thought it was going to be.
All those components.
I know, it was a bizarre thing, and I'm sure that actually when if you look into it, it's to do with distribution or something. I mean, bear in mind, as a film critic, all you could ever do is watch the film at the end and judge whether you think the film itself is any good. In the case of Belle, I thought that was a moment of the industry really coming of age. Not because it's a blockbuster in terms of winning more audiences and more money than any other film, but for one thing, in America, in the cinemas in which it played, it did do very well. So, for example, in the cinemas in which it played, it outperformed the cinema averages for whichever Spider-Man movie it was going up against. Oprah Winfrey sort of taking it under her wing was a very big deal. It was very, very well written about. I did a thing in The Observer of 10 great screen breakthroughs of this year, and I included Amra Santi in it, despite the fact actually Amra had made her feature film several years beforehand. There was a huge gap between that and Belle. But being able to make Belle was such a great thing for her, and that she felt so positively about the experience that she said like a shot she would come back and make another film. So I think obviously you have the advantage over me that you've seen Takedown, which I haven't. It showed here last night at the film festival. I just flew in last night because I was doing the BBC film review, and that has the makings of something which may well prove to be a breakout movie. I don't know because I haven't seen it yet, but if what you're looking for is the big blockbuster success, what I can guarantee you is when and if it comes, it won't be the thing that you expect. Who thought Waking Ned would turn out to be, a film which actually has a different title in the US? Who thought that would turn out to be such a huge success? I was thinking recently about Thomas and the Magic Railroad. Now, I know feelings are perhaps mixed about Thomas and the Magic Railroad. As a parent, I can tell you that there is an entire generation of kids who have grown up watching that film on DVD. You can go into a supermarket, anywhere in the UK, and that will be one of the titles that is there on the supermarket shelves. I mean, I know, 4, 5, 6, 7-year-olds who have watched that. Believe me, I've seen that movie more than I've seen many movies in my life.
So we should be waving a flag on that one, should we?
Well, what I'm saying is that in the end, the films that actually, become huge popular successes are not the things that you expect. I think in terms of a film industry coming of age, a film like Belle is important because it was a serious film, it was a complicated film, it was a film which had a popular appeal, and it was a film which everyone who worked on it came away saying how much they enjoyed working, with Isle of Man and how much they would do that again. And I think that's really important. I'm really looking forward to seeing Takedown. I hear that the screening went quite well, and I think there was a thing this morning when they were touring around some of the locations. So, looking forward to seeing it.
There's been lots of controversy about Isle of Man film. I mean, I don't know how much you know. For instance,
very little. Steve
Christian's been the powerhouse. He's been on Pinewood. He's also on Isle of Man film. Blah, blah, blah. In fact, the film last night had him in the titles, and it's filmed in Wales and the Isle of Man, which of course, no doubt, he had something to do with that. Controversy here is, of course, that there hasn't been that sort of return on the money as far as people are concerned, maybe, and what's it all up to, and is it shrouded in some sort of deals and that sort of thing. I mean, is it important that we do have this sort of fun now? I mean, as I said at the very beginning, that everywhere else seems to be doing the same thing. The Isle of Man's competitive edge may be diminished now.
Well, the thing I'll say is twofold. Firstly, as a film critic, what I know about film production can probably be put on the back of a postage stamp. I mean, one of the things that filmmakers always tell you about film critics is, if you knew how films were made, you wouldn't say half the things you do.
You'd make your own, wouldn't you?
Well, actually, and funnily enough, I have always held that film critics and filmmakers are a completely different breed. If you want to be a filmmaker, be a filmmaker. If you want to be a film critic, be a film critic. I had a conversation once with Willem Dafoe about Antichrist, And I said, well, I think Antichrist is about misogyny. And he said, well, I'm in it, and I don't think. And I said, yeah, but you just made it. I actually watched it. So there is a difference between watching a film and making a film. And I have been completely disengaged from all the sort of the political stuff that you're talking about. I think in terms of the ongoing issue of whether or not the Isle of Man is a competitive place for films to be made, I think it is, and I think the reasons are, firstly, in terms of natural locations, you have an extraordinary range of natural locations that look like themselves but also look like other places. You have a solid infrastructure in which it's possible for people to come here and work here in very pleasant surroundings and get work done efficiently. You have a growing reputation for movies. I mean, if you look at something like Me and Orson Welles, which I know Me and Orson Welles did not set the box office alight, but I bumped into Christian Mackay just the other day in BAFTA, and immediately fell into conversation about what a great film that was. And of course, that you couldn't have filmed that anywhere other than the Gaiety. It's the only Corsican trap, I think there are two in the whole world. So, and that statue, Richard Linklater, who was up for Best Director and actually instantly was robbed when he didn't win Best Film for Boyhood, that's the guy who made that film. A couple of films back was making his film in the Isle of Man, and there was a very, very good reason for it. So I think that all the factors are here, and it is just a matter of carrying on the work that's been done so far. And yes, of course, financial situations will change, and yes, of course, other places will become more competitive. That's just the changing nature of the world. The big issue facing anyone making films nowadays is distribution, is how those films get distributed. As we all know, every year, hundreds of films are made that nobody ever sees. I mean, there's a film made here, The Watchmaker's Apprentice, which is a terrific piece of work, which is just about to come out on DVD, and that's where most people will see it on DVD. I mean, actually, it's something that deserves to be seen in the cinema, but most people will see that film on DVD. But in the DVD market, you have to struggle to find the attention of the audience. In the end, everything will be simultaneous opening anyway. Everything will open simultaneously in cinemas, on DVD, on demand. That's the real struggle. It's not just getting the films made, it's getting the films seen. And that's why the reputation of a film like Belle, the reputation of a film like Me and Orson Welles, that's why that is more important than the financial impact that those movies have. The ongoing reputation of those films is really important.
I mean, everyone wants that Sound of Music moment, don't they?
Yeah,
when
sure.
they'll have all these tourists turning up to go and look at the film sets.
But you kind of had that for a while with Thomas and the Magic Railroad. I mean, people did come because of that, you know. And but was that an end in itself? I mean, people will come and go to Craignish, won't they, because of Waking Ned, which is now, well, how old is that film? 15, 20 years maybe, you know. And
that has been used in many other films since then, hasn't it?
No, of course, but that's I'm sure that's one of the things, you know, people say you must go up there. That's where Waking Ned Divine, I think, as it was called, elsewhere it was called. Yeah, so it's you have to distinguish what you think the primary purpose of the film industry is. Where the primary purpose of the film industry is to say, come here, it's a really nice place to visit, or where the primary purpose of the film industry is to make great films.
I bet a combination of both would be
exactly a combination of both would be very
nice,
very good. Yeah.
So, but back to the thing though, do you think the Isle of Man should continue? This is something that you would think?
Yes, of course I do, because I'm a film critic who has seen many good films that have come out of the Isle of Man. You know, in terms of the practicalities of financing, the rest of it, as I said, that's something which is, you know, it's French to me, because it's not my area. But in terms of what I've seen, then yes, of course you should. You know, Belle is really recently, and that was one of my top 5 films of last year. And you know, I saw a lot of stuff last year.